Hello everyone and welcome to part one of UFV West's third annual career panel. We're really excited to bring this to you in a virtual format today, and we have some incredible speakers here to listen to. One from within the UFV community who you might recognize, another from across Canada, and another still from another continent, which is super exciting. For those of you who don't know, my name is Tessa and I am the president of UFV West. I'm joined today by our VP Events, Miguel.
Hi everyone, I'm so glad you were all able to join us, and I hope you're looking forward to hearing from some incredible women in STEM.
Our VP Finance, Georgia.
Hey, welcome to our career panel.
And our VP Social, Rian.
Hi everybody, I'm so glad that you're here, and I hope you enjoy our third annual career panel.
Our VP Communications, Melanie, couldn't be with us today, unfortunately, but I'd just like to start off by thanking my entire team for helping me put on this career panel. Definitely a team effort, and they've put a lot of hard work and effort into it, and I couldn't have done it without them. I'd also like to extend the thanks beforehand to our panelists, because of course without them we couldn't have made this happen either. So I hope you're excited. I'm excited as well, and let's get started. Just as an introduction here, UFV Women in Engineering, Science and Technology, otherwise known as WEST, is a student-led group here at the University of the Fraser Valley in Abbotsford, British Columbia, Canada. Our mission is to empower gender minorities in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and math, otherwise known as STEM. We envision a future without barriers where STEM is a welcoming and equal place for anyone who chooses to pursue a career in it. Throughout this panel, you'll be hearing about the many experiences that our panelists have had throughout their careers, both academic and professional. As we know, women often face many barriers in STEM fields. Though times are changing, many young girls are still discouraged from pursuing the sciences here and around the world. We hope by listening to these three women, we can all share in the success that they have found in their careers and take notice of the important and interesting work and research that they are doing. If you're a student who's watching today, maybe they'll even inspire you to take up a career path you hadn't even considered yet. Before we get started, we would like to acknowledge that the University of the Fraser Valley is situated on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Stala people, or people of the river. West would like to acknowledge the injustices Indigenous people have faced and continue to face in what is now known as Canada. We also recognize the severe underrepresentation of Indigenous people and knowledge in STEM fields. As we continue our work, West is committed to celebrating Indigenous knowledge and contributions within UFV and our greater community. It is an absolute honor and privilege to be able to live, learn, and work on this territory. Now I'd like to pass things off to Rian, who is going to introduce our first panelist.
Maria Carmen Punzi is a menstrual health researcher and activist. Since 2017, she has worked in multiple international organizations building evidence on the connections between menstrual health, sexual and reproductive health, and gender equity. In 2019, she won a 5-year grant to complete her PhD on menstrual health and social enterprises at the Rotterdam School of Management at Erasmus University. Her research starts from the recognition that while data shows that menstrual health affects women's opportunities, health, and inclusive participation in society, the topic is widely missing in current agendas around gender equity. In 2021, in collaboration with other stakeholders, she has advocated and obtained funding for free menstrual products on the Erasmus campus and continues her activism within and beyond the university. She also regularly consults organizations and companies on menstrual health education, content creation, and menstrual products business innovation. When she's not busy writing and teaching, she curates her @Periods with Maria Carmen Instagram page, where she translates evidence on the menstrual cycle into fun, shareable content.
Hi everyone, my name is Maria Carmen Punzi, and I'm honored to be part of your virtual panel today. I'm a third-year PhD researcher at the Rotterdam School of Management at Erasmus University. It's in Rotterdam, the Netherlands, in Northern Europe. I'm originally Italian, and today I will be sharing a little bit more about my journey in science, what's my background, what are the challenges I faced, what helped me get through. I have to say I'm honored to be featured, and I'm happy to share a bit about my journey, hopefully to also inspire other people and other women and girls also to be a knowledge entrepreneur. That's how I would define myself, and to follow their dreams. A bit about myself. I said I'm a PhD researcher. I'm also a lecturer. I'm also an activist. I'm also present on social media and doing science communication. And that's all around my passion and my topic of interest, which is menstrual health. I've been in this field since about 2016, when I was just a master's student, and I came across the topic of menstrual health connected to gender equity. That's something I've always been passionate about. I didn't really know what I was going to become when I grew up. I wanted to be a writer. Then I wanted to be, fighting for women's rights, although I didn't really necessarily know what that meant. But when I was about 20, 21, I found out that there's a lot of kind of menstrual restrictions applied to women worldwide, and I started wondering myself about the taboo and the misconceptions and the myths that we all grew up hearing about menstruation. And so that really motivated me after my master, which was in business and sustainability, to spend 2 years at the beginning of my career really diving into the NGOs and social enterprises working on reproductive health, sexual health, and menstrual health for women and girls. I must say that at the beginning, when I wrote my thesis at the end of my master about social enterprises working on menstrual health, I remember feeling like I want to do this. Like this is what I want to do in life. How do I even do this? There's definitely no menstrual health, jobs out there. And this was again like 6 years ago. And I realized, and maybe I don't know if I realized it consciously, but it struck me that I just had to try. I just had to try something. And so when I finished my master, I started writing blogs voluntarily for platforms about periods. I started volunteering for organizations working in the space. Then I got an internship in a Dutch NGO working on sexual and reproductive health. And then I landed an opportunity at PSI Europe, that's Population Services International. It's actually an American NGO that has a European headquarters in Amsterdam. And I spent a year and a half there, and it was the most amazing experience I've had so far, because I got to learn from amazing professionals working on sexual and reproductive health. And what my role was there is to argue and to show and to talk with our local offices about, well, where does menstrual health fit? Why are we not talking about menstrual health when we talk about family planning, reproductive health education, and interventions? And so those were a magical kind of year and a half. I traveled a lot. This was pre-pandemic. I traveled a lot. I got to learn from amazing professionals, and it just kind of synced in me this desire to do this work for the rest of my life, because I realized that there I was bridging kind of evidence and science and papers with actual interventions and programs in NGOs, and kind of trying to also advocate for better funding at this intersection of menstrual and sexual and reproductive health. Then the opportunity came up, and I understood that it was time for me to actually embark in a full-time PhD, which means I am a full-time employee of the university. I combine my own research with lecturing for my students at the master, which is an incredible experience. And, I was a bit insecure about whether going back to working, for a university would make me feel detached from the field after having experienced it. And I must say that was not the case, because I decided it wouldn't be the case. I decided I would be, indeed, what I was mentioning before, a knowledge entrepreneur, which means that I was just not gonna simply wait for opportunities to come to my desk to feel empowered, to feel impactful in my job. I was gonna study and research things that matter to me. I was gonna bring up to my students topics that matter, because we need to talk about inequality. We need to talk about, bringing the colonial values to class. We need to talk about degrowth. We need to talk about the future of consumption. And not that I have any answer to all of this, but I wanted to make my scholarship and also my teaching style align with my values. And I think that's one of the things that I have learned to appreciate over time, is that we always get a chance to let our values shine through our work. And at the beginning, when I was a bit younger, I thought, well, your job function needs to be a certain way. So you need to maybe work for an NGO or for a nonprofit entity or for a foundation in order to really bring your values to work. But actually, those are organizations like any other, right? And actually, I feel like we have a responsibility as women and people in science to bring those values to science, because science is not neutral. Science is always political. We are always bringing, a desire, for example, to improve people's lives, or at least that's my own take on it. I think the most challenging thing I've been experiencing is that I have a strong passion for this field of menstrual health. I theorize on it, I write on it, I study it. And then I'm also an activist in it. I'm an actual, active part of the social movement. And I must say there's a lot of contrasting feelings about whether you can do both. I've been trying really hard because in my heart, aligned to my values, this is what feels right. But I think we are still in a transition moment when it comes to scientists and researchers and their value in social life and in society and in media, for example. I consciously decided to open an Instagram account a couple of years ago now to share, the insights from my research, but also what I was learning about menstrual health and its interaction with, gender equity online. And I've been doing it, through social media tools, and it's been an interesting experience, and I love it, and it gave me so much opportunities, and it opened up so many doors for me. But of course, that's first of all extra work, and second of all, maybe doesn't always necessarily align with the idea you would have of a PhD researcher. However, I do think that there's room for us and for people who are going to enter, the science field, whatever that means to you in the following years, especially given the state of our world and how quickly things change in front of our eyes without us being really able to do anything about it, to really bring our vision of what kind of researchers do we want to be, what kind of, professionals do we want to be, and is it really a problem if it's out of the box? Is it really a problem if, I am interacting with people online on social media and also doing, valuable research projects? Is it okay? And how can we make room for critical conversations in class while still teaching and while still, bringing knowledge to our students? I think that's what I've been sitting with for the last years. I still have 2 years more or less to go for my PhD. I'm not exactly sure what life's gonna look like after. But one thing I'm sure of is that I hope to bring my values, my vision, and also my activism with me. Like a year ago, we started a project on campus here at my university to bring free menstrual products to toilets. And now, we're in talks with the board of the university. We've been gathering information from our students and our employees. How do they feel about their menstrual health and well-being? I've been giving workshops to students about how to improve their student life and in general their life by understanding and improving their menstrual health. And some days it all feels like just pieces of the puzzles that don't come together. And then other days I feel like, I can take a step back and really feel like, yeah, this is what I'm building. This is my life. This is what being a scientist means for me. And this is how I fulfill my responsibility as a person who is interested in data, is interested in insights, is interested in understanding people's experiences of phenomena, but also wants to do something with those insights. So that's me. I would love to connect if you're interested. I'm on LinkedIn. You can reach out there. And I hope that this short video just inspires you to ask yourself what kind of professional, what kind of researcher, what kind of person in science do I want to be? And I know that the boxes and the expectations and the pressures are a lot, but you can always bring your own flavor to it, and actually the world's gonna be better off for it. So I hope this pushes you in the right direction in that sense. Thank you for listening, and I wish you a great rest of the panel and then of the day.
Thank you, Maria Carmen. I'll now pass things over to Miguel to introduce our next panelist.
Golfam Ghafourifar is an associate professor with the chemistry department at UFV. Golfam obtained her PhD from Université de Montréal with Professor Karen Waldron, developing analytical methods to immobilize enzymes and fabricate immobilized enzyme microreactors to be used in proteomic studies. She then joined the Department of Chemistry at University of the Fraser Valley as an assistant professor in 2016. Since then, she has been mentoring several undergraduate students who are passionate about research, chemistry, and biochemistry, which has led to several presentations and awards from national and international conferences.
May 2016 was a memorable, exciting, yet stressful time. I got the news that I was offered a job at UFV right when I was at the hospital, just a few hours after giving birth to my son. In 3 months, we moved cross-country, and I have started my career at UFV as an assistant professor in August 2016. Moving with an infant cross-country to a place we knew no one was challenging. But didn't someone say that anything is possible if you put your mind to it? So we did it, and we fell in love with our new city, new home, as well as new people in our lives. We made friends again, and BC felt like home. I started at UFV teaching first-year chemistry, second-year analytical chemistry, and third-year instrumental chemistry. I also developed a new and novel course called Analytical Proteomics, which bridges chemistry and biochemistry and attracts a wider cohort of learners, hopefully. I've been always enjoying teaching and feel that I learn and relearn every time I teach a class. Not only I learn about what I teach, chemistry or science, I also learn a lot from interacting with students as representatives of a young generation. My passion for research has also always been an important part of my academic life. I continue to enjoy having keen students in my research group and feel gratified that my primary field of research, called proteomics, encompasses both chemistry and biochemistry, allowing me to host students from both groups in my lab. My wonderful, sharp, smart fellow students have been flourishing in national and international conferences, winning domestic and international awards, grants, and funds, getting accepted into top universities as graduate students, as well as medical students. I proudly watch how successful they have become. I'm very grateful to be where I am and to do what I do. I'm also very grateful for what you do in West. Being a woman in science is indeed challenging. Sometimes you feel that you aren't heard, possibly overlooked, or maybe treated differently, and that you need to do more. But we, women in science, know that our future is bright, and we will make it brighter. I close by reading a few sentences from my website while you're looking at some of my wonderful students. In Golfam's lab, we strongly believe that a diverse team produces the strongest research, and having lab members from varied backgrounds strengthens the group's output. We welcome diversity of all types, including various ethnics, gender, disciplinary, and academic backgrounds, so that we learn from each other how to always be looking in new directions. We also welcome young scientists from groups that are underrepresented in chemistry. And at the end, I would love to have bright, passionate, and knowledgeable students in my research group. You can read more about my research and my teaching in my website, and also get to know some of my wonderful students and their achievements. At the end, I'd like to thank you for watching this short video, and I'd like to thank West for giving me the opportunity to talk about myself and my research.
Thank you, Golfam. Now I'll pass things on to Georgia, who will introduce our final panelist.
Elizabeth Porter is a graduate student and interdisciplinary researcher at the University of Guelph. She is interested in using accessible and innovative tools and methods to empower communities to address environmental and conservation-based challenges on a local level. She is also interested in how urban nature spaces play a critical role in the ecosystem and connecting humans with the natural world. Elizabeth's research includes work on the scholarship of teaching and learning, specifically experiential learning in higher education. For her master's research, Elizabeth has been working with an interdisciplinary team of biologists, pedagogical experts, computer scientists, software engineers, and data scientists to develop a citizen science program, Squirrel Life, to engage undergraduate students in science in a meaningful way. With 2,000 students having participated so far, Elizabeth looks forward to expanding this initiative with the upcoming launch of a mobile application and web-based data portal. Elizabeth loves chatting about grad school, interdisciplinary research, citizen science, and squirrel antics. Outside of work, she's an avid gardener and loves learning about ways to increase backyard biodiversity and experimenting with growing new and unusual plants.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to chat with you today for your panel discussion. My name is Elizabeth Porter, and I am recording this for you across Canada in Ontario. I'm a master's student at the University of Guelph. I thought I would start off today by telling you a bit about my master's research and then share how I got here. There are so many different ways to get to so many different places. And I really do think that my experiences leading up to and throughout grad school are best captured by the phrase, choose your own adventure. My path has been pretty non-linear, and I think that's an important thing to share because for most people, if not everyone, life has a lot of twists and turns in it. And just because you think something isn't going like it was supposed to or how you had planned it, it doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong or aren't moving towards your goals. And I'll also point out here that I chose this picture of me in my garden. It might seem totally unrelated, but I have it here because even though I love my research and the work that I do, It's not the only thing I do, and it certainly isn't what defines me or the only thing I derive my self-worth from. It's also an important reminder that my discipline-specific experiences are not the only things that got me to where I am today. And that's a really important lesson I've learned over the last few years, and something I hope I can communicate the importance of a bit today as well. So I came into my master's with very little research experience and not really knowing what my research project was going to be. And it's absolutely evolved and changed lots over the past year and a half. And it does indeed have something to do with squirrels, as this photo might suggest, but maybe not in the way that you expect. Sometimes I also feel like the chaotic energy of squirrels is an awesome representation of all of the excitement I have for my research and the work that I do. So very broadly, I'm interested in using citizen science for student engagement and experiential learning, or basically hands-on learning that includes a reflection component, as well as the opportunity to experiment with what you've learned. Over the past few months, I've also become increasingly interested in the field of human-nature connectedness, as well as data collection and data accessibility. In other words, I'm interested in a lot of different things. And I really like to try and mash as many of them together as I possibly can. I've always had a really hard time narrowing things down. And I do think that this maybe interdisciplinary, multifaceted approach, which regularly requires me to talk to a lot of different people about things that I might not know about, brings a really important and diverse perspective to the research that we do, which in turn makes it much more valuable and meaningful when we produce that research output. But coming back to where things began, I started my master's during the pandemic. So it was very timely because remote learning was leading to a lot of lost opportunities for undergrad students in terms of experiential learning and research experience, increased mental health challenges, and a lot of students were feeling alone and a general lack of community because they were literally spread all over the world. And knowing that citizen science is generally quite accessible, with many exceptions that I won't get into right now, it seemed like a good fit. Essentially, citizen science, or also community science, is getting people in the community who aren't necessarily professional scientists involved in research. You might have heard of eBird or iNaturalist, or Seek by iNaturalist is a big one now. And these are fantastic tools. But when I was exploring the available citizen science project options and the tools associated with them, none of them were quite what I wanted. There were either too many limitations in the data that was collected, or it just wasn't customizable enough. And I really wanted to get into the nitty-gritty and explore how students were engaging with the project on a more behind-the-scenes level. And so Squirrel Life was born. In a nutshell, squirrel life involves going for a walk or sitting someplace and observing squirrels. But you don't just count them, which sets it apart from other citizen science initiatives. You actually observe their behaviors and write about them a little bit and describe what you see. If you're interested in learning more, I'll have some links at the end to get in touch. So now that you know where I am, I'm going to jump back to where things started. Probably not all the way, because truly things started when I was a little girl running around on my grandparents' country property and filling my pockets with sticks and leaves and other treasures that I collected outside. So we'll start with undergrad. And truly, my path has not been linear, but when I think about the experiences I've had, I can pretty clearly divide them into three major sections, which I call undergrad, the in-between, and grad school. Coming into grad school, I was really focused on getting the grades and experiences necessary to go to vet school, to be a veterinarian. But then in the summer after my third year, I went on a trip to provide veterinary care in underserved communities. And then immediately after I got back, I had my first research experience. And having these two experiences back to back and juxtaposed against each other, it really made me realize that I wanted to explore a career in research in some way. So suddenly I was regrouping and scrambling to try and fit as much research-related stuff into my 4th and 5th years of undergrad. I was able to take an extra semester, which was so worth it. And I realized that I really just needed to explore what was out there. And let me tell you, I explored. I did some artificial insemination with chickens. I did some veterinary work. I did some field work where I planted 25,000 broccoli seedlings and drove this giant truck into a ditch. I did some snake stuff. And my very favorite, I did some fantastic work with birds of prey and educational outreach. And I made a lot of mistakes. I also learned a lot about the things that I didn't like constantly smelling like chicken poop. I learned a lot about myself, who I like to work with, how I could be a better teammate, how I could be a better team leader, how to effectively communicate with people who have different skills and knowledge and background than I do in a bunch of different settings, like the middle of a farmer's field, where there's suddenly a giant truck in the ditch and no one else speaks English. That's tricky, but I managed. And what was important to me personally and professionally was probably the most important things that I discovered. But after all of this exploration, I still felt like this. I felt like Dory from Finding Nemo. I had no idea where I was going or what I was doing. But after all of those wonderful experiences, I had become really good at figuring out who to talk to or when to ask for help, what I might need to learn to get to the next thing, and how to make a plan, as well as how to be flexible with that plan. The most important part for me was just taking that next step and not overthinking if it was the perfect one. I felt confident in myself and my ability to continue to move forward, whichever direction forward might be. And something really important I've learned is that you don't always have to be making progress related directly to your career goals. So I graduated and I got a job working at a vet clinic. And I loved working at the clinic, but I didn't want to be a vet. So I got a job in an entomology lab where I sorted and identified insect specimens. And I loved that, but I still really wanted to go back to school and do a master's. And so I started looking at different options. And then I met Dr. Shoshana Jacobs and Dr. Carl Cotney, who are my current advisors. And they had fabulous reputations for being exceptional mentors and advisors. So I was ready to jump in before I really even knew what the project was. Throughout my master's, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of cool interdisciplinary work and work with computer scientists and software engineers. And it's been a lot of project management experience and collaboration, which I think has made my research and also my general approach to research a lot stronger and more meaningful. I've also learned it's important to find your people and your support system. And for some, this comes from family or friends, but it can and it should also be trusted mentors and advisors, as well as fellow students. This is where networking is really important. And make sure you don't just find people who are interested in similar things. Look for people who are interested in different things. This is really valuable feedback to get, to people to talk to get that feedback on your work and your ideas. And the people who aren't as connected to your ideas as you are, they might give you the most valuable feedback. I know that's where I've got my most important feedback from. And all of this time, I really continued to explore, and I'm so glad that I have. Now, going forward, I'll be starting my PhD in the fall with Dr. Jacobs and Dr. Cotney, which I'm so thrilled about. And I'm interested in expanding on my current research and asking some big questions about how and why we collect data, who and where we collect it from, and then once we have it, who we allow to access it, how we allow them to access it, and what we're allowing them to do with it. So really, having said all of this, I think that it's about those little steps that get you wherever you're heading. and the things that make you feel fulfilled and happy in your work and also outside your work. You might find out that where you end up is very different from where you had initially planned, and that's okay. Consider it an adventure. I certainly never thought that I would be pursuing a PhD in data accessibility. I didn't even realize it was a possibility. So now that you know about the adventure that I've been on, I'll wrap up here today by saying that one of my favorite things is chatting with other people about their adventures. So please do reach out by email, or you can find me on Twitter. I've put my contact information on this slide. Or if you're interested in learning more about the Squirrel Life Project, which has some big and exciting stuff coming up soon, you can also find me on all of those social media platforms or by email. Thank you again so much for inviting me into your spaces today. I'm so grateful to be here, and I wish you all the best in the rest of your semester and in all of your future adventures.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and I'll now pass things off to Tessa to wrap it up.
Thank you, Georgia, and thank you once again, huge thank you to all of our panelists for their contributions tonight. We really appreciate you sharing your experiences from grad school to research and everything in between with us and the West members and the UFV community. To our viewers, we sincerely hope you enjoyed this panel and maybe even learned something along the way about menstrual health or proteomics or squirrel antics. If you have any further questions for any of our panelists, feel free to contact us by email at ufvwest@gmail.com, and we will do our very best to put you in contact. Also, if you are local to UFV and you are watching this the day that this panel goes live on Wednesday, March 16th, don't forget that part 2 of our career panel featuring some more amazing women in STEM is happening live in person tomorrow. That's Thursday, March 17th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at UFV. For more information on this, you can have a look at our social media pages, which are listed below. Anyone is welcome, even if you're not a student at UFV. However, if you are a student at UFV, we are encouraging you to RSVP through the event posting on My Campus Life. If you enjoyed tonight's panel, you will certainly enjoy tomorrow's panel as well, and we would love to see you there. That is all from us for now. Thank you very much for watching our first part of our 3rd annual career panel. Take care.